That's the sound.
That there's some swearing.
That's the sound.
That there will be swearing.
That's the sound.
That there is some swearing.
That's the sound.
That there will be swearing. Hi, hello and welcome to episode 2 of Breaking Glass, the Bowie catalogue. And as this podcast is a chronological endeavour, this episode we are discussing 1969's Space Oddity, also known as Man of Words, Man of Music, or simply David Bowie 69. And thanks for coming back for episode 2. We're just as surprised as anyone that we went and recorded the first one, let alone have done 2 now, and we've got a few more in the bag already. So thanks for that. We thought we'd have at least to add Alan saying to anyone noticed that we were around. Thank you for all the lovely comments people sent in about the first episode, and you found the positives at least. Some other people didn't, and we were roundly whipped by a small percentage of Bowie fans on the net. Probably just a good time to really say that Breaking Glass is just a chat between two friends discussing music they like about David Bowie. This was never meant to be some kind of NPR, Radio 4 roundtable discussion going through every individual fact. We like a good fact, we talk some more facts. Granted, we kind of skirted over the first self-titled album quite a lot, and we kind of did giggle and snigger about it, just because we just don't think it's very good. Sue us. But promise, going ahead now, that we will probably actually get quite a bit more dry. So you've been warned about the dryness, and also if you're not that keen about listening to a podcast where two men make each other giggle whilst espousing views on music, Breaking Glass might not be the one for you, and let's part friends here. If you're still here though, thank you very much. And needless to say, the conversation will continue. And this episode, as well as talking about Space Oddity, we also take a bit of time with the news, predominantly with BBC Proms, because we both watched that and had quite surprisingly strong views on it. We also touch upon the Lazarus musical coming to London, which we're both massively excited about. What we did forget to mention, though, in the body of the podcast is why it's so exciting, particularly about Lazarus, other than being a musical version of The Man Who Fell to Earth. It includes tracks that are not already found on Bowie albums, called No Plan, Killing a Little Time, and When I Met You. All tracks that you can't hear outside of a musical, so very excited to see that. I've already got my tickets booked, and it's going to be a lovely old November evening in King's Cross. There's also the news of the new Unearthed album, The Gouster, being released in the Who Can I Be Now box set, the follow-up to last year's very impressive 5 Years box set. So The Gouster is the album which was originally intended to be Young Americans. I'm sure you know this by now, but it includes different track listing to Young Americans. It's got 4 tracks off there, but 3 tracks which never made it onto Young Americans, but only ever appeared in deluxe versions or bonus editions. So you got the sold up version of John I'm Only Dancing, called John I'm Only Dancing Again, and it also includes It's Gonna Be Me, which originally only existed as a bonus track. So we'll get to finally hear the song sequence in the manner of which it was originally intended before they had to go and cut a few things back and make a short, sharp LP with Young Americans. Also come up in September, the BFI are screening a lovely 4K restoration version of Nick Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth. Absolutely incredible film. It's one of those ones where I went and watched it as a child and did not understand it at all. I went and watched it purely because it was David Bowie playing what I thought was David Bowie. And then, having never encountered the work of Nick Roeg before, found it very challenging and very difficult watch at the time. And it took me about 15 years to go back and try it again and realise, my God, this is actually a wonderful film, whether or not you see far too much of Rip Torn. Which reminds me, I recently had cause to watch Alan Clark's version of Bertolt Brecht's Baal play, which starred Bowie in 1981, which you can now get on a lovely BFI Alan Clark box set, which has a load of his other works, and they're all, being Alan Clark, they're all just as challenging as the last, and all pretty damn good as well, and Baal especially. And I never realised that it was a studio-bound production. I don't know why it never crossed my head, but it's very odd seeing Bowie interacting with actors on old VHS cameras for the BBC in very stark studio lighting. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant in it. It's probably after Man Who Fell to Earth, it's probably his best performance and probably the furthest away from that performance. After much maligning his miming talent last week, you can actually see a lot of it coming into work, and it's actually quite astounding to watch it. So hush my mouth and hush Adam's, I think, too. So before we move on, let's just give a quick shout out to our lovely sponsor, vulturehound.com, Vulturehound magazine, the best for new music, film, television, arts and design, and wrestling news, features, reviews, and everything that has to do with a written word on media. Go check out vulturehound.com, and thank you to them, and thank you for sponsoring this, what I hope will be a long-lasting podcast. So, where are we now in the story of Bowie? It's 1968. The self-titled D-Ram release did not set the world on fire, even though there was such strong material on it. Although, side note, When I Live My Dreams now been used in a Heathrow advert, and it actually works really well in that advert, so, it doesn't sound that good on the album, but yet in the advert, it sounds lovely, yeah, but anyway. Ken Pitt has now been his showbiz manager for 2 years. He's slowly cracking the industry with his lovely South London looks, his folky charm, and his mime skills. Bowie meets perhaps one of the most profound figures on his artistic career, Lindsay Kemp. And studying under him, he learns the avant-garde, opening up a world of bohemia, using makeup on stage, and general performance skills. It can't really be overstated looking back now how important this relationship could be. In January '68, Kemp choreographs a scene for a BBC play called The Pistol Shot, which featured Bowie and a young lady by the name of Hermione Farthingale. The pair begin dating. They even form a trio with guitarist John Hutchinson, combining folk, Mersey beat, poetry, and blessed mime into one gorgeous cocktail. Unfortunately, that doesn't last too long, as Farthingale leaves in early '69 to take part in the film Song for Norway, which, as a side note, in the video for Where Are We Now, Bowie can be seen sporting a Song for Norway t-shirt. Interesting. Her departure leaves a young Bowie devastated, and will help form the basis for at least 2 songs of what will become Space Oddity. Getting over the breakup, he would take his mime act on the road with him, playing third bill on Tyrannosaurus Rex's tour. And one particular news event in January 1969 would form the basis of what becomes his first album proper. When he sees the breathtaking photo Earthrise, taken from the Apollo 8 rocket orbiting the moon. If you don't know what Earthrise is, you probably have seen it, but it's the very haunting image which shows 2/3 of the Earth surrounded in an ocean of black. There's no lights, there's nothing, there's just absolute blankness. And some say Bowie looked at this absolute abyss and he saw no answers. When most people were looking up to the heavens and the moon and the stars to see something better than what was on Earth, all he saw was more of the same. The same kind of tower blocks that were beginning to crumble, the money that was drying up in the country, people out of work. And some have already said that in 1968 people were still living these heady, hippie, hedonistic days, and Bowie was already seeing the tide turning. And when you look back on Space Oddity now, you realise he is incorporating these darker themes of inertia and desperation, and you don't really notice it, because a bit like the self-titled album, it's all packaged up in this delightful merry-go-round of music. And Space Oddity, the single, is released on 11th of July 1969, 5 days ahead of the Apollo 11 launch. And emboldened by a new musical path, he co-founds the Beckham Arts Lab, sort of based on the Drury Lane Arts Lab he used to frequent a lot. The venue sought to be a collective of different artists from different fields, all combining to make one glorious regime where people could be free to express themselves. It didn't turn out so much like that, and we discussed that further on in the podcast. Space Oddity, the album, is finally released in November '69, and that's where the conversation will continue. After we spend a bit of time talking about the Bowie at the Proms thing, but then we continue. So, hey, hello, and welcome.
Hello.
To episode 2. We made it. Episode 2.
I know, we did a thing.
We did a thing, and we're carrying on with it.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done, everyone.
Yes, well done, everyone.
Good work. And welcome to Breaking Glass, the Bowie Catalogue, Episode 2, where we're talking about the folk album, Space Oddity.
I think you're doing it a disservice there, mate. It's not solely a folk album. However, it has a more clear focus than the last album we discussed,
A folk focus.
which we agree was a debacle.
Yeah, although there's been a lot of Bowie news recently, and one of which was When I Lived My Dream from the last album has been used on a, I forget which airline or travel thing, but
It's not important.
It's not-
It's about people going on holiday, and I've seen it, and I think it's fine.
it's fine, but I did kind of think, did we just completely dismiss it out of hand, and when you watch it in terms of the advert, it's actually quite nice.
I anticipated that you would feel this way, and thus I have prepared an opinion. I don't think that at all. I think it's fine. I think the song itself is needlessly twee, but it works when used
In a twee advert.
in a twee advert. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what it is.
What I think is
really.
far more interesting, Mike, is the Bowie proms, which we need to discuss. I mean, my main issue with it is that I think that if this podcast has proved anything, it's that finally somebody has had the foresight to
Really appreciate David Bowie.
to do something with that back catalogue that was just sat there, doing nothing, and then the Bowie proms sweep in there, and they didn't. I mean, did they not read our eulogies for him?
Clearly not.
Our vaguely teary pieces in
No.
Vulture Hound magazine? Clearly they did not, because I was expecting to be asked to perform a reading of something. I mean, I was going to do like a monologue from Labyrinth. It's okay, because John Cale decided to do what he always does, which is make noise.
Yes.
Lots and lots of noise.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fine, but there was one song when I was listening to it going, fuck is this?
Do you only think that's fine? Because I really enjoy John Cale at the proms.
No, I think... crap. I've forgotten precisely what songs he did, but the
Oh, I can tell you.
Please do. The first one he did,
He did Valentine's Day,
that was incredible.
which I heard him interviewed recently, and he said that's become his favourite Bowie song.
Yes, that was excellent.
Yeah.
But there was another one he did.
He then did Sorrow with Anna Calvi,
Oh, so I didn't like that.
which was a
I
nice
also
choice.
thought it was odd because it's a cover.
Yeah, exactly. Again, in the same interview, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do Sorrow. It's a great song." And even listening to the interview, I was like, "You do know it's a cover, John. It's not Bowie."
Yeah.
But then he did Space Oddity,
Oh, yeah, that was
which
excellent.
I really enjoyed his kind of synth-heavy version of. But he was just doing the lyrics as it is kind of written down, as opposed to doing it as almost a mini play, which it kind of is.
I'd say the thing that I loved well, no, not the most, because the most, as we've already said, because you've already put it on the Breaking Glass Facebook page.
Facebook page.
Was
That's
Lady Grinning Soul.
Facebook.com Breaking Glass Pod for anyone interested. Come and check us out.
Or
Sorry.
just search Breaking Glass.
Yeah, you can do that
As
on
most people do.
on the Facebook
On your
as well.
phone.
Yeah, please do.
Anyway, Lady Grinning Soul.
Absolutely spectacular.
Jesus, that's incredible.
Anna Calvi is genuinely incredible.
She took that song and she made it sound so much bigger.
Yeah. And from what I've looked up for videos online as well, she's done a few versions of that. I think it's a live kind of...
Like a regular treat.
Yeah, and it's nice, but yeah, it's a song that's not part of the greatest hits oeuvre output thing. It's an album track for
It's never been a
likes.
single, has it?
No,
No, it's
it's an album track. It's a great one as well,
It
which
is
we'll
a-
cover later on.
It is a great one, yeah, which we'll cover in 4 episodes time.
Yeah,
But no, I thought that was absolutely. Do you
incredible.
know what? I put my drink down, and I just focused. It was spellbinding. But what I really loved was the fact that they decided to start with Station to Station,
Yeah, that's
which I think is one of.
after there was our instrumental.
I mean, that's my favourite album of his.
That's definitely,
Anyway.
that song is in my top 10
But
favourite.
I mean,
songs.
I think that's one of the great album opening tracks. It's like
Yeah.
The Queen is Dead on the album of the same name.
Yeah.
It's a song that absolutely, as a statement of intent, it lays down what the album is about and what the themes are going to be. And then Neil Hannon and
Amanda Palmer.
Laura Palmer, yes, was
Wrapped in plastic.
I think it's absolutely incredible, and
Yeah, that was
I've
amazing
been
stuff.
online and I've seen that people have not shared our opinions on the David Bowie proms.
No, which I find strange.
Utterly incomprehensible, I'd say.
Because a lot of people are commenting, saying strange things like, Bowie will be turning in his grave if he saw the treatment of his music.
That's bollocks.
I mean, what have they done to this music? Oh, I thought the proms was going to be a celebration. It seems to be some kind of way.
He disagrees with them.
But I really don't think, for a man with so much varied taste in music and was so orchestra driven,
one of the most famously eclectic men.
yeah, and go, oh, you did like a xylophone version of Let's Dance, and yeah, I figured I hear that.
No, they're just wrong. I mean, what did they want? Did they want?
Were they not expecting instrument or experimentation at all? Were they not? Were they
No,
just
rather
expecting-
than the proms, I think what they wanted was essentially a Top of the Pops 2. Where
Yeah.
they just played a load of
They just
old
wanted
footage.
They just wanted Ian Hunter to come out and go, oh, I did all the young different ones. Hey, I hate everyone.
But I thought it was a genuinely a celebration, and I've heard a friend of mine has said that he doesn't hold with this Laura Mvula.
I
thought she was brilliant.
like Laura Mvula very much.
I believe it's
didn't-
pronounced Mvula.
Mvula. Pardon me. I wasn't in love with her version of Fame, but I didn't dislike it.
I don't think it's ever going to surpass the original, but I don't think that's what it was for.
No,
I think that, was it John Cale says in the beginning that the main reason he agreed to sign on was that they were able to play around with it.
Yeah, and
It was a celebration.
with John Cale, again, the same interview I heard it was on Radio 4, I think. He did actually say, I wasn't sure about it, but then the organisers told me I could basically do what I wanted with the arrangement, which opened up more worlds to him, and he thought, oh, right, I can do something with this.
Can I put drones in it?
It's funny you should mention John Cale and drones, because I saw John Cale.
Did you?
I saw John Cale a couple of years ago at the Barbican. I forget which artist he was doing this whole spiel with, but he did a couple of evenings at the Barbican where he said, oh, well, drones are becoming so ubiquitous with society. I'm going to put on a concert and drones are going to hover over the audience throughout my show. Okay, John, I'll buy into this.
It's like Dylan Thomas is in the room. It's absolutely extraordinary. You
Are
man
you
of a thousand
listening carefully?
voices.
But basically, all the event amounted to was John Cale sat at a Casio whilst people in the pit below him were controlling these drones which came over the crowd, which sounds okay, but bear in mind that drones are very loud, like probably like
Well, they drone, don't they?
they're droning, and all these drones are made up to look like different things. So, and they also had spotlights on them, and they seemed to like single out poor bastards in the crowd who paid pretty penny for this gig. And so, you're looking like behind you, and you see like this poor woman who'd obviously, made herself up for the evening, getting absolutely windswept by this drone hovering above her with this spotlight, and every other clown in the place looking down on her, going, "What's happening with her there?" And her looking terribly embarrassed. All the while, John Cale just looking at these drones, like going, "So that's a drone then? Oh, I didn't expect that." He just looked so confused for the whole thing. So he's there singing Scotland Yard.
Terribly sorry, everybody. I thought droning was like an instrument they were using.
He genuinely had this look of like bemusement on his face, like, I don't think I signed up for this, because you could barely hear the music over the droning, and I don't think he'd really anticipated that when he signed on for this endeavour.
God love him for trying, but
I mean, God, I love John Cale. I love his music. I love his just ethos in music and life. But it was definitely one of.
yeah,
and
I'm with you there. I mean, what I like about John Cale is the fact that he's willing to give it a go.
He's going to give it a go. In this
Even
case,
if it doesn't always work.
it was funny because we went to reception area to go use the lavatories before we left, and there was genuinely a congregation of us, about a dozen of us, all there going, "What the f*** fuck was that? Like, I know it's John Cale, but Jesus, I couldn't hear anything above the bloody drones, and he just looked upset by the whole thing. I mean, he probably thinks it's a resounding success, but sat there as an audience member.
There is a horrible part
I just
of me that
thought, what
believes
the
that
hell
John
is
Cale
this?
thinks that everything he's done is a resounding
He
success.
wears lovely scarves.
Yes, he was.
And a variety of haircuts.
He appears to be wearing 2 of them. Although I did think his hair was extraordinary.
He's done the right thing as an older musician, which is just to let his hair go beautifully, not do the Ray Davies thing of I'm going to keep the long hair and just keep dyeing it this chestnut brown, which everyone would believe.
Yeah, and I'd like to applaud you for going for Ray Davies there as your.
Well, who are you
your
expecting?
example. Well, Paul McCartney is.
Oh, yes.
It would be the everyman choice, but you thought no, Ray. Ray's the man for me.
Just because I saw Ray recently at the Mark
how
Hamill
is he?
thing. But he's very good. He sends his apologies.
Did you give him my best?
I did. I mean, I wish I could have spoken to him longer. We've missed over something in the proms, which is Dear Paul Buchanan. I don't know why you're laughing.
I'm laughing because you and I have long suspected that Paul Buchanan may sound and behave in a certain manner, and then he shuffled onto the stage with his
Reading glasses.
blazer, white shirt, blue jeans combo,
Looking like a trendy teacher.
and just kind of went, "Oh, hello. No, if you want to sing along, then absolutely, that's fine. My name's Paul Buchanan," and then he popped his wee reading glasses on there, and he stood at the lectern, and he did a nice little thing, and it was lovely. The best thing is, he even said, "I won't stop you," as though
he would like lunge and say it round. Windmilling everyone.
And I am here at the fucking Albert Hall, and I'll fucking stop yous.
I would have been heartbroken if Paul Buchanan came like that.
No, but he wandered out, popped his half-moon reading glasses on.
Brilliant.
I went,
And then did the most tender version of Ashes to Ashes I think anyone's probably ever done.
it was absolutely lovely, but it was just nice to know that, but given that we based our perceptions of him solely on the Blue Nile's albums,
Which are, if you don't know them, Blue Nile are one of the finest. Like, the term adult pop is thrown around horribly, but Blue
people
Nile
associate it with Simply Red and all
Not a bad thing.
and all manner of nonsense.
no, I'm not having that.
But I'm going to go ahead and say that the Blue Nile are officially friends of the podcast.
I mean, during the proms when they announced they were doing a medley of Black Star songs.
Oh, the trilogy bit.
Yeah, when they did Girl Loves Me, which Laura Mvula did, and then...
They said, and of course, Paul Buchanan has requested to sing I Can't Give Everything Away.
as soon as he
But then
said
at that point, he appeared to shrug at the audience in a sort of, oh, no, what am I like? And it was wonderful, wasn't it?
Oh, it is absolutely
Utterly,
spectacular. It's
utterly
beautiful.
wonderful.
He is genuinely, I think, one of the great underappreciated voices from the UK. And just one of the great voices.
I don't really understand why he's not. I mean, he is big news, obviously, but
He's one of those people, I think...
why isn't he held? Why isn't he spoken about in the whole
He's certainly one of those...
great legends way?
I think people who really enjoy their music know who the Blue Nile and Paul Buchanan is and appreciate the fuck out of him. But your general kind of, someone who listens to Bowie greatest of will have no idea, perhaps, who the Blue Nile are, and missing out on this absolute wealth of fantastic music.
Complete treasure trove.
It's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
While we're on the proms, I feel duty bound because I personally was not 100% in favour. The reason
who would that be against? Would his name start with an M and his surname start with an A?
Yes, my arse.
Would he not be in favour of Scott Walker's later efforts?
I mean, I won't lie. I went in angry. I went in angry because I hadn't forgiven him for the 30th Century Man documentary.
Yes,
Where
where he
he-
had just the wrong opinion.
Yeah,
on
well,
Tilt.
he said that Scott Walker stopped being good after the sort of orchestral 60s pop thing, which is bollocks. Because Tilt is superb.
Yes,
But
one of the
then-
best albums.
Genuinely, ever. Not just of Scott Walker, but ever.
Yeah.
Then he has always been a limited voice man.
Yeah.
Tainted Love was great, obviously.
Yeah,
And that non-stop erotic cabaret or whatever the big album is.
Yeah.
It has its moments, but he is not a vocalist in the same calibre as Buchanan or indeed Bowie.
Or Walker.
Or indeed Walker, that's right. So he stands there and he has the gall to do Life on Mars. He changes the words. He can't hit the notes. It's a fucking farrago. Then later on, he comes swanning on like all is forgiven, like it's no fucking big deal. Decides to do, but then he does his own little intro, which none of the other artists have done.
No, he had a little preamble.
Only Almond feels the need going, oh, the people must know. Going,
Paul Buchanan turned up almost apologetic.
going, oh, no, please, I'm sorry, sing along if you like. I'm just here to provide sort of focal point. Whereas he rocks up and says, oh, no, this is like twat from Spandau Ballet at the beginning of Live Aid saying,
This is
there's a
so
very bottom
much
of you, to me,
the
to
world.
It's called True.
Yeah, because True helped
And
everything.
he does Starman badly. I mean, you know the obviously you know the refrain in the chorus, but it was every time he suddenly started trying to reach the note, realised he couldn't, and then dropped it down like
Because
a
he's a
semitone
lesser
or half
singer.
an octave or something. Because Bowie, as we've discussed before and will do, my God, again, is a voice man of no small ability.
No.
He had an impressive range.
Damn right.
Almond, on the other hand, is a twat.
What would I like to say just before we move on from the proms, just to give the props to the Black Star version with Anna Calvi and Amanda Palmer.
Mega.
That was genuinely fantastic. And
Yeah.
they performed, they didn't just sing it, they performed it.
Yeah. I mean, stand up for me, still Lady Grinning Soul.
Mm.
But I thought the concert was great.
I
I also
thought the
thought
whole concept of it was
the man we're here to do justice to
Mm.
would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go so far to wonder whether he would or not, but I definitely don't think he besmirched his output, his music, at all. I
Not
think
to
people
besmirch.
saying things like "you're returning as a grave" is doing an absolute
I think it's
stupidness.
bollocks.
Yeah, and just, how dare you presume to think whilst we sit here and
Whereas
go
we
through
sit here and-
music week after week.
Yes, with our absolute extensive back catalogue of popular music hits,
Yeah.
we absolutely own the right.
Right, so we should
I'm
probably
just-
carry on the news because I think we spent a lot.
I'm just
long
ripping
time
through my notes on the
Well, the
voice
other
bombs,
note-
actually, and all I've written here is "fuck off, Mark," fannying with the words,
Mm-hmm.
emoting rather than singing, and then I've rounded off with the words "fuck off" again,
So to sum up, Mark
Which-
Coleman not in favour.
which I've actually underlined twice.
Good.
So
We'll
clearly,
post that. We'll post that on Facebook.
the man that was writing these notes
Was it an angry man?
wasn't impressed.
No.
Wasn't impressed. I'm going to steer the conversation, if I may,
Please do.
to a man that Nick Cave once described as the mighty Alan Vega,
The mighty Alan Vega, yes.
who has recently died.
He has, and I was genuinely quite sad when I read that. Because he wasn't a man who I spent a great deal of time really researching him in depthly the same way I do a
No, I know
Bowie
what
or
you
Tom
mean.
Waits or Nick Cave. But he was someone who I spent a lot of time enjoying his music and really,
I felt the world was richer for having him in it.
yeah, someone like an Alan Vega was
Regardless
better.
of the fact that It's like that, you know, the Mad Men thing, where it's easier to admire than it is to enjoy.
Yeah, which we said before, Mad Men.
Yeah.
We admire the show more than enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
Because we both just like
it's
what's
an
Deal or No
impressive
Deal.
it's an impressive thing, but I don't. It doesn't ever grab me emotionally,
No.
and I kind of feel the same way about Suicide. It is
Oh really?
their first album is horrible
In the best way.
in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's incredible, but it is also horrible. I mean, Frankie Teardrop, which I have very fond memories of watching you perform an elaborate candle dance to in my front room
Such
once,
a candle dance.
thus
Yeah.
terrifying a friend of mine at the time.
Yes, you had a friend come round whilst
But,
me and a few other friends
we
were
were
staying with you.
Is it fair to say that we were in our cups? We'd been drinking for a couple of hours.
Perhaps a couple of days by that point. And a local friend of yours came knocking on the door saying, Adam, you guys up?
Well,
Can I
it was-
come have a drink?
It was quite late at night. We were all
It's
working.
about 1 in the morning. to
We
be
were all
fair.
working in the pub at the time. He'd clearly just finished work.
Mm.
We were.
He thought he'd stop off on the way home for a freshener.
Yeah, a quick sharpener.
He did not realise the realm he was walking into.
No, so there were about 3 of us sat on the sofa, and you.
Whilst I turned down the lights,
Yeah.
I put Suicide's first album in the CD player, lit a candle, and then proceeded to spend
Frankie Teardrop.
10 minutes dancing for you all with this candle burning the shit out of my hand,
Yeah.
but me never missing a beat.
The best thing is, my mate was so polite. that
He's
even though, like, John and I and so on, we're all sat watching this
Entranced.
this elaborate performance. I suppose because we all knew you well enough by that point to just go, he's got to get it out of his system.
give him 10 minutes.
He's got a candle dancing in.
No.
That needs to come out.
We turned the lights back on. Your friend quickly drank up and made excuses.
He finished his can of.
I never caught his name.
I'm not going to tell you it here, to be fair. It seems unfair. But it rhymes with ban. So, I don't think he dug the candle dance.
In which turn he didn't dig Suicide, so he can go to hell.
When you weren't staring intensely into his eyes and waving a candle at him. A lit candle, mark you.
If you're gonna see Suicide, you should see it in some proper context like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not an easy listen. I suppose
No,
is what we're
and the
getting at.
second album is as good as the first. It's absolutely incredible. But weirdly, after Nick Cave's ringing endorsement when we saw him at All Tomorrow's Parties, the
'Cause
first thing...
I think it's fair to say we'd never heard of him.
We never heard of him. We only heard of him because we were at All
What's it-
Tomorrow's Parties.
If Nick Cave uses the words "the mighty,"
Yeah, we saw
before
Nick Cave and he
introducing
started like... He sat at his piano, like, clearing out his ears, going, so I can't hear a fucking thing. I just went to see Alan Vega. The mighty Alan Vega.
Why
Which is
are you not attempting his accent?
Because I can't do an Aussie accent.
For the doesn't normally stop you. Is it because are you
Because I know it might be heard. But it was kind of like, that's all I need to do here. Mighty, Alan Vega, Nick Cave. I'm going to go listen to him.
sold? So, any more news you want to canter through?
Right, just the last couple bits of news is recently Bowie's been nominated for the Mercury Prize for Black Star.
Well, I support him in this.
I support them. Interesting choice though, because Mercury is usually devoted to, I don't know, maybe, well, it should really be lesser known artists. Like, they finally incorporated grime artists this year.
Elbow were on like their 5th album.
Exactly. Well, it's usually meant to be people you're not that familiar with, but who need a bit of a push. Even though Radiohead are on the shortlist as well. I don't think they've ever won a Mercury Prize, I believe.
I've no idea.
But finally got some grime artists on there. You got Skepta and Kano. And Kano's album was fucking brilliant. So it'd be good if that won. But you got Black Star on there as well, which just out of loyalty, yay Black Star.
Yeah, I mean, you say out of loyalty, but Black Star.
But also, it is actually a fantastic
Black
album.
Star is an incredible record.
Save it for 22 episodes time.
I mean, I don't think it's a shock, really.
No.
Doesn't everybody agree?
Yeah.
I mean, the only dissenting opinion I've heard was a lad of 16. Who
Man's a fool.
I happened to be talking to this. Oh yeah, I heard that. Didn't really like it. The only correct response to that was, well, fuck off then!
Fucking children.
Just because it doesn't sound like Suffragette City.
And the final bit of news is a lovely bit of news that Duncan Jones, Bowie's son, has had a lovely bouncing baby boy.
Yes.
I believe so. And the main reason it was lovely is his wonderful tribute he put up on Twitter announcing it. So, 6 months to the day since your grandfather left room for you. Or made room for you, sorry.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's lovely.
It's lovely.
And I wish them all the best.
All the best. And Duncan Jones, film-wise, we're grossly in favour of. I mean, Moon is spectacular.
Moon really is. I didn't like Source Code though.
I thought Source Code was a bit overrated. Not seen. So really, when I say grossly in favour of
we like
films,
Moon.
we really like Moon.
We haven't seen the World.
Not so sure on Source Code, and we've yet to see Warcraft.
But other than that,
broadly success. Well done, Duncan. Maybe long continue.
Should we crack on?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's actually get to the reason why we're here.
I mean, I've opened my
After that
notebook,
lengthy intro,
which I have proper notes in.
You made notes this time. Well done, you.
Yeah, I did. I listened to it and everything.
Right.
I like this one.
So we're here.
Yeah.
That's the reason we're here, to talk about Space Oddity.
And where is here, Mike?
Here, well, you find us in the bowels of the Kremlin. We probably been a bit loud so far for the Kremlin.
Yeah,
I can hear the clip clops of the KGB as they come to search for their files.
The clink of spent vodka bottles rattling round Gorbachev's office.
Sorry, Gorbachev, we'll keep it down. Yeah, so we must be a bit hushed tones. So I can hear the filing cabinets going now. Something's afoot. Right, so we're here to talk about Space Oddity.
It's 1969.
Picture yourself, if you will, it's 1969.
It's 1969.
Man, it's about to hit the moon.
Because that's how it's always described on those documentaries. Man hit the moon.
Man hit the moon.
Not steps on, not walks on. Hit the moon.
Hit the moon.
Oh, yeah, hit the moon.
I Vic the moon.
So it's 1969.
We have
The album is often referred to as David Bowie.
Or in America, it was Man of Words, Man of Music, which I finally got right after.
Yeah,
I
looked it up as well after.
Oh, right, that's what's called. But yeah, it wasn't actually called Space Oddity until 1972 when RCA re-released it, when they had all of his catalogue.
Yeah.
Once he'd done Ziggy, and like, there's some money in this Bowie fella, but let's re-release all his other albums.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the vinyl version that I have is 1972.
With the Ziggy haircut cover.
Yeah, that reminds me actually.
What's reminded you?
Well, the 1972 version, and this is absolutely delightful, comes with the following sort of testimonial on the back of it. Finally, words cannot speak of music. They cannot elucidate nor illuminate. Both sounds enter through the ears, but only music travels through it and animates the whole body. David Bowie has always known this.
Of course he has.
Space Oddity, which opens this album and which in 1968 brought David Bowie into music's world arena as one to be reckoned with, inhabits and charges the whole being. As with all of Bowie's music, it is both ecstatic and uncomfortable, discomforting. It dates early in the mutable, yet paradoxically consistent Bowie Odyssey and remains archetypal. What the fuck does that mean? Well, it dates early in the mutable, yet paradoxically consistent Bowie Odyssey and remains archetypal. Its achievement, and this is so of Bowie's music in general, is that it was now, then, and it is still now. Yes. Personal and universal, perhaps galactic, microcosmic, and macrocosmic. Everything we are is engaged here. We have only to let it in.
Those galactic acoustic sounds.
Fuck, seriously.
Was that written by the Ken Scott, not Ken Scott, Kenneth Pitt fan club?
I can only assume so. I mean, it's on the back of the cover. It also makes a very big deal of saying David Bowie is a main man artist. So yeah, I imagine.
Dear Kenny Pitt.
I mean, what?
What? Come again?
It's the 1972
It's
one.
a song.
He's dressed as Ziggy on the front cover,
Whereas the original cover had him with the long flaxen curls,
which
and
is
the green and blue
the
dots.
cover that went on to be on. Well, that cover there, isn't it?
Yeah, the one you're showing me right now, which is holding the cover of Space Oddity 2.
Great radio.
Great radio showing a man something else.
The one that was on the reissue, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other interesting thing is that that one, the 1972 one, the one with that
The Ziggy head.
bizarre prose, is also the one with the without "Don't Sit Down" on it.
Mm. So Space Oddity.
The song. You mean Ground Zero?
Ground
You referred to it
so,
17 times in the last one.
As we actually begin to learn of the music of David Bowie, we have this wonderfully soft fade in of his acoustic guitar.
Yeah. It's operatic.
Yeah.
I mean, it may well be, and indeed it is, isn't it? It may well be a cash-in, because people
Well, it totally is, yeah.
What did you say? People were sitting on the moon, hitting the moon.
Hitting the moon.
Because we were sending people to hit the moon. And so it may well be a cash-in. And that, presumably is why Tony Visconti
Poo-pooed the idea. They said, I'm not your George Martin.
I don't want to direct. I don't want to produce that, David.
David, this sounds like a bunch of hogwash. How do English call it?
I think it's hooey.
Dear Gus.
Oh, Gus.
Dear Gus, he's back again.
Gus, the gudgeon dudgeon. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Not just as
It's
a
Space Oddity, for Christ's sake.
I think it's great.
It's great. I mean, when I was a kid, it was the first song that ever introduced me to the idea of a mono recording, because I had an old school stereo that was in my room. I never knew the concept of a mono recording, and one day on this old stereo, I had my headphones on, and one of the faders was set to left. So I was listening to the album. Oh, it must have been the greatest hits. I just suddenly heard like the softly better. Grounded bells. That doesn't sound right. What?
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it?
Have I put the right CD in?
When mono and stereo, the difference when you were a kid. My mum and dad used to play Reflections. You know the Supreme song, where it goes.
Oh yeah.
And if you've got a proper hi-fi, you can hear the sound roll from one side of the room to the other.
And
it's absolutely incredible.
Space was the first time I ever appreciated you could do that with music.
That's the sort of that you could play with it like
and it made me realise you could actually listen to 3 versions of this song. The proper version, then 2 versions with left and right, and then also...
Didn't the Flaming Lips do an album where there were 4 discs, and you had to play them on 4 different CD players at the same time? I'm sure they did.
Sounds like something they would do.
It's frighteningly plausible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an incredible song.
It is, and it was one of the first songs that made me think you could actually write like a narrative for a song. It wasn't just words of like, oh, I'm in love with someone, oh, something. Yeah, I realised it was actually like a narrative. Yeah, it was actually like a small film.
It's not him. It's a character.
Yeah, and you knew that instantly listening to it. It's like, oh, he's performing as other people, like having it back and forth. Which is something the John Cale Proms thing missed on, because he did a very straight reading of it. But no, Space Oddity really should almost be a duet.
Yeah.
Because it's a back and forth between Major Tom and Ground Control.
Ground Control, yeah.
Quite literally. But and it's a wonderful mix of having that acoustic sound, but also bringing in the little stylophone and bringing those early touches of, oh, we're bringing in some electronics. And even though it is a novelty, it's still an absolutely...
It's not a bad novelty.
No, it's probably the finest novelty song ever made.
I think it's a novelty song that bears repeated listening, which is, I mean, it's what Joe Dolce was reaching for. With Shut Up Your Face.
I mean, he came close to touching the face of God.
He did, yeah. Yeah, Joe Dolce, Mr. Blobby. I mean, it's very much a who's who. But, I mean...
Some would say also ran.
But Bowie wins. Incredibly, he did a novelty song and then built a career on it. almost.
Yeah, because it all really started with Space
In a
Oddity.
way that Joe Dolce, to date, has yet to replicate.
Had we, as an audience, fully appreciated the majesty of Joe Dolce,
Or indeed Ryan Paris.
We could-
Or indeed Falco.
where
are they
who
now?
knows what Joe Dolce's tilt would have sounded like?
I don't know. And I mean,
Joe, if you ever were to listen to us, could you please let us know what
do get in touch. What does your tilt sound like?
your tilt? So, have you anything else to sound Space Oddity?
well,
to be fair, it's one of those songs that's so ubiquitous with Bowie. I think everyone knows and has an opinion on it. And
Well, it's the only one from this song that features on most of the best ofs, isn't it?
you mean the album? Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and
Space Oddity features on the greatest hits.
Yeah, and no other song really
No other
does,
song
and
does.
it does sound very different to the rest of the album because it was produced by a different person and written before the rest of the album.
Written by the Gudgeon,
As
opposed to
well, produced by the Dudgeon, and then the rest of the album was written
Tony.
and produced by a different person.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
David, I've unwashed and somewhat slightly dazed. Shall we do that?
Yeah, let's go on to that.
Track 2 starts off, I think, incredibly twee.
Yeah.
Like,
Actually, I quite.
in a way that I find makes more sense if it was on the previous album.
Well, there are touches in the whole album that sound like this could have maybe, if you put some trumpets on it, could have started in the last album. But yeah, I mean, his voice already sounds so much different from the Anthony Newton
Completely.
style.
But you've got the very twee opening, but then, like 30 seconds in or something, that guitar starts, and it's a proper sort of driving blues guitar.
Yeah,
Proper sort of chugling along. I think it's fantastic.
Actually, when you literally said the word "them," it did actually make me think this song does sound like a slowed down version of "Them," as in Van Morrison.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like, because obviously he ended up covering them on Pin-Ups, so to me, Unwashed has a slight sound that you've been listening to them recently
That's a good point.
when writing this, and it sounds like a more laid back, slowed down version of them.
Well, it's like Charles Shaar Murray. He's written that half of this album sounds like it should have been in like 1972, and half of the album sounds like it should have been in 1966, 1967. And I think he's right.
Really?
Yeah, because bits of it are quite twee, and he writes an awful lot about that. That whole 60s flower child thing.
Yeah.
But then part of it is also being disenfranchised.
Actually,
with that flower child thing.
lyrically I can see where he's coming from because
But not just lyrically, musically as well. Very few of the old Flower Child records had that sort of driving guitar in it.
Yeah, I mean,
They sort of noogled around.
Going ahead of ourselves, but yeah, it does. Unwashed definitely has that kind of wistful sound, which is like a mutation of the first album. Like without the flutes, without the horns, it's just you've got that nice acoustic guitar, but it just sounds like. It's very light. It's very light Americana blues. It's a very distilled version of it.
I think it's got quite a furious blues ending.
Yeah, I mean the blues ending for me has a very.
What the fuck? Siri has just said no comment, Jenny. Well, that's interesting.
How dare you, Siri?
Please continue.
Yeah, Unwashed for me definitely the last. The guitar outro almost, I have them on my notes, reminds me a bit of Creedence.
Yeah,
the early Creedence kind of. Has that twang to it. And
that good old boy boogie.
Yeah, that's the right phrase, the good old boy boogie. Definitely has that sound to it. And then you've got, whether it's a track or not, or an interlude or an outro, Don't Sit Down.
Well, it depends entirely on
which version you listen to.
What era you're listening to. In 1972, Don't Sit Down didn't exist.
No.
There's not really a lot to say for it. I mean,
no.
I've written here, I blame all hip-hop skits on this song.
So every time we heard Big Pun or Notorious B.I.G. having sex...
Yeah. Don't Sit Down.
I won't. Well, it's a nothing, really. To be fair, it's a trifle.
Yeah, but what's it for? Why is it there?
A bit of studio hijinks.
Yeah, it's studio tomfoolery. Letter to Hermione.
Fucking love Letter to Hermione.
Yeah, I do as well. I feel like if this makes sense, I feel like I shouldn't, because
Why?
it is unapologetically sort of twee and
It's
lovely, and it's like it's the type of love song that he could only have written then, because
Yeah.
of course when he was older he would have like draped it in metaphor,
Yeah, he did
illusion
cut
and
up the
so on.
lyrics and
It would have been far less comprehensible. As it was, it's just, I am a very young man and I'm in love with her.
in his first real adult relationship, and he's
Yeah,
just devastated by the breakup of
It's
it.
simple and it's lovely.
It's incredibly hard on your sleeve, and I think it's a very understatedly devastating song. I mean, you got like lyrics like, "I'm not quite sure what we're supposed to do," which it sounds kind of innocuous, but
But that's exactly how you
delivered
feel.
in that way. It's like, "Fuck, I'm in love with you. I want us to stay together. We're breaking up. What the hell do I do? Shit. Oh fuck." And
Yeah.
everyone who's ever been through that can, it's,
Which I
it's
think
very
is
relatable.
probably
in lyrics.
everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's lovely. I mean, when I think I was...
And by the end of the song, he's already admitting that he wants her to sparkle like a different girl. So he's already letting her go, and he knows the relationship's over. I mean, it's definitely one of those songs I think should be more revered in the canon of Bowie.
I think what's great about it is that it demonstrates that he was able... You know, like when Stuart Lee does those things where he says, "I can write proper jokes."
Yeah.
It's like, this is David Bowie saying, "Well, I can write a sort of
Yeah, I don't
a
have
straight up,
I don't have to do
almost ballad.
a silly song about listing things in London, and
There doesn't need to be a gnome,
there doesn't have to be a nonce involved.
and there doesn't need to be sung in a vaguely Polish made-up language while Brian Eno goes in the background.
It's just him having his heart on his sleeve, and it's brilliant.
completely. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Right, so finally,
I know, right?
Space Oddity was just a given, but yeah, we finally like a song.
That's why we did this.
Yeah, and now everyone, you're gonna get fed up because we're gonna gush over every other song probably.
Get used to us liking things, listeners, because or listeners, because right up until the 80s, this is how it sounds.
You'll be begging for the first episode where we just went over stuff. That was alright, isn't it? Yeah. So, Signet Committee.
I mean, I'm loath to do this, to be perfectly honest with you, because my compatriot Michael has written an article about the most underrated Bowie songs for Vulture Hound magazine, who remain our sponsor.
What magazine is that, Adam?
Vulture Hound magazine.
Vulture Hound magazine.
For the best new writing.
Good shout out, vulturehound.com, who are our sponsors, and you should really check it out for some blinding film, music, wrestling, arts and design, and now it seems podcast news. So thank you very much to vulturehound.com.
As you may have gathered, Michael has got another drink and is now back in the room. But anyway, as I was saying,
don't let this happen back.
Yeah, don't see how the sausage is made.
Yeah,
As he wrote an article about the most underrated Bowie songs, and Signet Committee, which is the very next song, features highly on that list,
Was the
and
first
for
choice.
good reason.
Yeah.
It is, I think, for me, it is his first epic song.
Well, yeah, in length and in
But no, I
content.
don't just mean length, I mean in scale as well.
Yeah, totally.
Newly is dead. From
Oh
this
yeah,
point.
no, this is the first time, I've even written it down, this is the first time Bowie's voice is there.
I've written exactly the same thing.
You have the, like, even the rest of the Space Odyssey album, he doesn't sound like this. He sounds haggard,
Exactly.
older, world-weary.
I've written here that I actually believe this song would make more sense on Ziggy.
Yeah, totally.
Because the way he sounds, the way the guitars sound, everything.
Yeah, the guitar has that kind of chugging sound.
But it's a proper rock guitar.
Yeah, it's not like, I've brought my guitar out, we're going to have a bit of a sing.
Crucially, it is not an acoustic.
It's not an acoustic.
They've
It's this
plugged in.
Yeah, it's this real kind of subtly chugging thing. And it's the first signs of him being a mammoth storyteller and just set his entire scene out before him. And when I first listened to it, I thought it was this kind of Saviour Machine style song about a demigod overlooking his.
Do you know, I've actually written links with Saviour Machine.
Yeah, well, it has like
I gave when we were doing our research,
which we did independently. We're just two schmucks who've been around each other too long. But yeah, you have that whole vibe of like the lyrics saying, "I gave them life, I gave them all. They bled my very soul dry." It almost speaks to some kind of higher power which I think he's going for, but which I didn't realise until I read up on the song. It's a much more autobiographical song than you realise. Because...
Is this what you were talking about with the Beckenham Arts Lab?
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and back in about 67, 68, along with Hermione Fotheringham? Yeah. He started the Beckenham Arts Lab, which he wanted to be a space for all creatives to come into. It's where he honed his mime skills as well. His miming skills. So it's where he actually did though. He did with his miming. But he wanted it to be a centre for all creatives in the kind of Beckenham area.
I mean, as far as I can gather, it was a hotbed of mime at the time.
Heartbreaking mime you've never seen the likes. But basically all it turned into was a bunch of hippies coming, getting stoned, and then doing versions of Rolling Stones songs on the guitar.
Yeah, fancy that.
Which he got really pissed off about, apparently. And Sing the Committee is actually his response to that.
Hence the lyric, I suppose, so much has gone and little is new.
Yeah. And just, I open doors that would have blocked their way. He's literally saying, I offered you an invite into the arts world, which you apparently craved. And all you do is literally sit here and get fucking stoned. And now I look like a mug because I'm hiring out this bloody leisure centre in Beckenham. It's less of a stark narrative, almost in sci-fi style, which I thought it was, and more of an angry young man having a 9-minute rant at people who he's pissed off at.
Yeah,
which I think is for all the better for him musically.
Absolutely, and there are, the lyrics in it, like such as "When money stood, we planted seeds of rebirth," and "Infiltrated business cesspools."
Yeah,
is particularly good.
Yeah, very stark.
It is very stark. He's
pissed.
He's disillusioned with 60s nonsense, and that lyrically, if not musically, does plant it exactly in 1969.
It does, yeah. And it almost seems like the most of the moment song on the album, because the rest of it afterwards goes back to the slightly twee, folky.
Oh, completely.
Almost like he wrote it. It feels like Signet Committee was the last song he wrote I don't know if that's the case, but it feels like the last song he wrote for the album.
I think Signet Committee is the standout track on the album.
Totally, not just because of the length, just because the sound, the aggression, his voice, everything about it just it's like the beginning of the game.
Exactly.
Which song?
The Great Game.
The Great Game, if you're not sure, that I think other Bowie listeners are aware of, that you go and you'd name the song on the album, which then precedes the next album.
Yeah, completely.
So, you say like...
Completely and utterly. So
you say Secret Life of Arabia precedes Lodger, and things like that. I think Signet Committee definitely precedes Man Who Sold the World.
Signet Committee would fit beautifully.
Because it's essentially a more wider scale version of Saviour Machine.
Completely, and it's heavier, and his voice is better, and the themes are bigger, and he's not... It's not a, I think this, or here's a thing in London.
Or here's a story to tell.
He's starting to flirt with personas.
Yeah. He's incorporating really his feeling into it.
First person songs that are from a character's point of view. And even though, of course, they are clearly based on they are autobiographical. Should we do Janine?
Yeah, which after the wonderfulness of Signet Committee kind of brings it back down into the clouds.
When I was listening to it, I was thinking Janine doesn't necessarily fit because unlike a lot of the other songs on the album, it sounds like it could be anybody. And I actually thought with the instrumentation and everything else, it sounds like a Joe Cocker song.
You know what I've got here? I've got it. It's reminiscent of going back to the Kinks. It sounds like face-to-face era Kinks.
It's almost everyman pop music, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 60s pop music. It's his version of 60s pop music. Yeah, like you could easily hear Brian Matthews go, "No, that's Bowie."
The one thing I have noted is the fact that when he sings the word sincere, it's one of the first examples of what would come to be stereotyped as the great Bowie voice, because he pronounces it sincere. As friend of the podcast, Adam Buxton.
Friend of the podcast, Adam Buxton.
Very
well made on Adam.
David sincere. It's
I do know what I've never clocked that.
oh, it's absolutely fantastic.
I'm going to have to listen to it now and listen out for that.
It doesn't.
It's very much for time.
It's not a bad song.
No, not at all.
It just it would fit with any one of those. Anybody could have recorded it, I think, is our point.
Yeah, it doesn't sound necessarily just like a Bowie song.
And now, an occasional dream.
It sounds like Jethro Tull.
Yeah, alright.
You got a lot of flute in there.
Actually, you've said Jethro Tull, and because of the flute in it, I've written that it reminds me of Caravan. You know, in the land of grey and pink.
Yeah.
That's, for me, that's what it sounds like. It's with a sort of Moody Blues backing vocal.
Oh yeah, no, Moody Blues right actually. I saw that.
It again though, that doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds like Bowie.
No,
It sounds like Caravan.
it sounds
Blues,
like Bowie
Jethro Tull,
emulating a style he's heard.
which does fit with his later sort of modus operandi. I mean, he was clearly and famously a magpie.
Yeah.
He listened to things and liked them. It's kind of the sort of pastoral end of prog.
Yeah.
The sort of that we're in love with being English prog, as opposed to less about aliens and far off lands like Yes might have done, and more like that folky thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, it also sounds. I think out of every song on the album, it sounds like the most David Bowie 1967 style song.
Well,
like it could have easily fit on the first album.
Interestingly, I've already written. I have actually written that it sounds about 3 years too late by 1969.
Yeah, it sounds like almost one he had in the bag.
Yeah,
so he goes like, "Oh, I've got this one.
I've written a song.
I'll put it on here anyway." You know.
What is it about, David? Well, Visconti, the architect in many ways of his best albums, or certainly his most famous albums. Wide-Eyed Boy from Free Cloud?
Wide-Eyed Boy from Free Cloud!
I don't have a lot to say about this because all I've written here, so clearly all I was thinking at the time, is I've written Horns from the last album.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Horns.
The horns, they're from the last album.
Well, I think melodically it sounds like a much more a happier version, of Sing the Committee. In a way, because the lyrics speak of a young boy who is tempted in by this kind of cultish atmosphere which the hippie movement represented to Bowie, perhaps. Again, with all this stuff, perhaps reading far too much into this. But another song features kind of Buddhist sentiments and all that.
Yeah.
And this kind of stripped back tweeness little bit of it.
Yeah.
But still saying like, life isn't working the way you wanted it to, but it's all happy and lovely still.
Wide-Eyed Boy from Free Cloud. I can see that.
And musically, it sounds like a bit of a sister piece to An Occasional Dream. Like if you put them next to each other, you can almost segue into the other. And it'd
what
be like
I
the
would be
same song.
interested in finding out, and I don't suppose we ever will know. I mean, we've both done the reading. But did he write this before he wrote Signet Committee? Because
That
to
I don't
me,
know, but I'd be interested in
it
that.
sounds like thematically it's similar. It's about that sort of generation of vaguely artistic hippies But in Wide Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, he sounds quite optimistic about them, whereas in Signet Committee, he's almost disillusioned.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Signet precedes it on the album fascinates me. Like, it's almost a conscious decision to not have it be a concept album. I know the concept of a concept album wasn't really a thing at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you'd have a
if he
theme
put
of an album.
Signet towards the end and this, it would almost be, like, even beginning with Space Oddity, it's almost like endless optimism and then this quite cynical song to end it all. And it's definitely not that.
Yeah.
And it could have been. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me falling as it does, like, 3 songs later.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I come to you for answers, and you're giving me these non-committal shrugs. I mean, frankly,
To each his own.
you say to each their own, but we're here in the bowels of the Kremlin, and you're...
Gorbachev is rapping at our door. We must be away soon.
Well, we only rented the space, like their conference room.
I don't think they intended for the whole Bowie Proms intro that we're well over
Well,
time.
quite frankly, if Gorbachev hadn't wanted us to rent this like immediately after the Proms, then he shouldn't have rented us the room 45 years earlier, or whatever it is. Sorry! Post-production nonsense.
Sorry.
Mike.
Adam.
God knows I'm good. But
How-
what about the song of the same name?
You Simon Mayo prat.
And if Simon Mayo were to hear you using his name like that...
Simon Mayo, friend of the podcast, we are very closely in favour of Simon Mayo.
Simon Mayo of this borough, we're deeply in
Grossly in
favour
favour of Simon Mayo. May
Simon,
he long continue.
Yeah. And all who sail in him.
Well, there's a great version that he did for John Peel of this song where he does the intro of it. I think it's the first time he ever performed it. It might have been before the album
Is
came out.
this the one that somebody played on BBC Six shortly after he died?
Perhaps, I don't
I
know.
think it might have been Mark
Riley?
yeah. Which was
Perhaps.
superb.
I mean, this is a song that when I first started listening to the album, it always stuck out for me because it just sounds different from the rest of the album in a way that it's more socially realistic, but in a way that sounds like it could actually be from the last album. In a kind of, social issues. A girl steals something from a shop and now she's being hung up by the police.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it appears to be a sort of like if you know that whole the flower power thing about love and everything, and
I know.
and
Word of love,
all that business. Whereas this song appears to be like a paean or paean or however it's pronounced to atheism.
Right.
Like, we are all pissing in the wind. Like we live our lives and we appeal to a higher power and it's all fucking futile.
Right.
Like, again, like Signet, if you will. Like, it's just, what is this all for?
See, I always took a much more straightforward reading of a song. It's
Oh,
basically the
Christ.
story of just a young girl being naughty in a shop. and she
God,
gets caught
no.
by the police.
I mean, if I may, I'll just read you my notes here. We are alone, desperation, poverty.
Fred Ken Loach.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Kess of the... I mean, like when you said We Are Hungry Men in the last podcast was about that, I think this is about that, but in a far better way.
Oh, yeah, he's going to
Like-
do it, yeah.
And it just ends on her appealing to a higher power, singing, and the repeated refrain, God knows I'm good, and nothing happens. I think it's fantastic. I also like the fact that it's the first time he, to my knowledge, that he experiments with that, just repeating the ending on a refrain.
Oh, alright, we picked up on that.
God knows I'm
Yeah. which he would do at at length on the next track.
Oh Lord, yes.
Yeah. So
God
memory.
the other way today.
Memory of the Free Festival.
Yeah, well, back to London.
Yeah,
That's nice.
And I have to say, I absolutely bloody love Memory of a Free Festival. It's one of my favourite early Bowie songs.
Yeah,
I have such lovely memories of this when I was first, went to uni and getting trains out of bloody Aberystwyth and listening to this on a bloody CD Walkman because it was about 6 months before iPods came in.
and it was always bloody murder on the train because you put it on the table and it would inevitably skip.
Yeah, and I remember I nicked your CD of this and going through the valleys and the fields, and this particular day is cloudy and foggy, and just listen to this song, which should be the most like hear the sunshine kind of song. And
It was
this
on those
grimy,
that exact
horrible
same
day.
journey, on that exact same sort of manner of Walkman that Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart finally made sense to me.
That didn't make sense to me for a long time.
No, it didn't for me, like a good 4 or 5 years, so it's something clearly about the McCuncliffe countryside.
It really grabs you.
It really forces you to focus on whatever it is you're listening to. I think for me this is one of the first songs where his almost unparalleled skill as a vocalist comes to the fore.
Yeah.
He jumps around. Some of it's very high, some of it's very low. He is, on this song, on this album, he becomes for me one of the great vocalists.
Right. Okay.
I think he's stunning in it, genuinely.
There's a real sense of just longing in his voice, like actually reminiscing about that afternoon, which for the longest time.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, he's emoting. And
Yeah.
I don't mean like fucking Mark Almond,
No,
who
no,
thinks
no.
that emoting takes the place of singing.
Who just hit
I
a
mean,
pitch.
he's managing to do both.
Yeah.
He's not just playing a part, talking about London.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is also he's
Really
telling a
going
story
for it.
and he's living it. I think it's few vocalists have managed to do it as well as him to imbue a song with this sense of self. Other obviously than wee Paul Buchanan.
Oh, Paul. I always thought Memory of a Free Festival was about the Stones' free concert they performed.
Altamont,
Yeah, I
where
thought
that
about,
guy died.
Yeah, I always thought it was about that. The reading I have done though speaks to more of it's actually a festival Bowie put on from the Beckenham Arts Lab. It was a free event they put on. So yeah, I always thought about the Stones, but it's actually about this day from obviously before he got angry and Signet Committee style, he went and put on this free festival, and there's this whole story about what a wonderful day it was for them all.
Well, the lyrics would seem to bear that out, particularly as it says, we played our songs and felt the London sky. It was God's land, it was ragged and naive, it was
heaven.
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy...
And then someone passed some bliss among the crowd.
Heavens! What could he be referring to?
Naughty Dave.
Naughty David with your illusory drug references. Another lovely bit of sort of 60s press memorabilia.
Go on.
Because I've just, in order to look at the lyrics, obviously I've opened up the sleeve notes from the CD. And there's this Philips advert here saying that you should go straight to your nearest friendly Together neighbourhood record dealer and ask for a new album called David Bowie or SBL 7912. If that's the way you feel. He'll have some bread off you. But what's that? If it gets you a head full of David Bowie at his best. I miss the days that record companies wrote crap like that. You jive chops. Head on down.
Here, you jive chop.
Hand over some bread and get yourself a head full of Bowie. I mean, the pinnacle of that sort of nonsense is clearly there's old wave, there's new wave, and there's David Bowie.
Yeah.
Which was released when famously they did not know what to make of Low. But my God in heaven, What record company guy in this self-conscious hipster argo is writing that type of task?
They were such fucking jive turkeys.
They really were. My God, so jive.
Oh, but Free Festival.
Yeah, I like it.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, that anthemic sun machine is coming down, but then goes on for 3 minutes.
Have a party.
Oh. Right, so if we finish the album,
I've got one thing.
Okay,
to ask you. Two things for the benefit of our listeners. One, what's your standout track on the album? And two, just to recap, I know you've already said it, but to reiterate, sorry. One, what's your standout track?
Yeah.
And two, which song tells us where he's going next?
Where he's going next, I think, is definitely Signet.
Agreed.
Guitar-wise, it just speaks to what's going to happen next.
Guitar-wise, thematically,
and
because
then,
it's the least optimistic song.
Yeah, totally. And then, favourite song-wise, again, it's a toss-up between Signet and Memory of Free Festival. I don't discount Space Oddity as a song at all. It's still one of the absolute classics as well. But it's purely on the basis I've heard that song so much in my life.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And in later episodes, this will become a repeating theme of there's certain songs I've heard so much in my life.
Like Changes.
Like Changes, and indeed Rebel Rebel and Gene Genie are songs I can
God in heaven, we
probably go for the rest of my life listening to.
Like Chris Evans in the morning was doing they do those on Radio 2. They do those factoid things like on this day in history that David Bowie's Diamond Dogs reached the.
But instead of playing,
and rather than
Big
play,
Brother,
and he played. He said there were 3 singles off it, but he didn't play 1984. They played Rebel Rebel, and I love it because it's him and it's a great pop song.
Yeah, no, I'd rather listen to that than
I am bored off my tits.
Yeah, no, I can go for the rest of my life now without hearing Rebel Rebel or Gene Genie again.
I just don't think Rebel Rebel's that great.
Is it? Well,
it's fine. It's a great song.
Diamond. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Diamond Dogs isn't considered one of his best. But there's so many better songs on that album.
Great record.
But anywho, but what would
so
be
standout song?
Standout song would be a toss-up between Signet and Memory of a Free Festival. What would your choice be?
Signet, hands down. There's no real question for me. It's Signet Committee. I mean, for me, I like the album. I think it's a curio in many ways because it doesn't fit. The song that everybody knows is Space Oddity, but Space Oddity had a different producer. It was recorded at a different time.
And it feels very much plonked on the album as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like he recorded a list of songs and he recorded Signet last.
Yeah.
You know, when his optimism had burnt out. And I don't know if that's true. I have no idea. But it feels that way.
Yeah.
And then they built an album around Space Oddity, which, is a good tune.
Right, so we should wrap this up now because we have rambled far too long about all this stuff.
Well, there was a lot of news.
There was a lot of news. There was a lot of news you had to get through.
There was a lot of news and I'd done my research.
And you see what happens when we do our research, we actually like an album. We talk quite thoroughly about it, I think. So...
Well, I mean, some may say thoroughly, some might say exhaustively. Others, less kind, might say tediously.
Yes. And
we must, and they'd all be right.
And dear Gorbachev is banging at our door once more, so we must be on our way.
Well, apparently something's happening in Cuba.
Well, apparently Paul Buchanan's dropped some nibbles at the bar, which needs hoovering up. So,
well, he apparently said they'd be going to waste otherwise. He couldn't deal with that.
Oh! So,
no.
Leave us all to say thank you so much for listening once again to episode 2.
Yeah,
we did episode 2. And we'll see you again for The Man Who Sold the World very shortly.
Yeah, next week.
Well, in 2 weeks' time, we'll try it.
Or tomorrow morning.
Maybe. Cheers all.
Bye.
There we have it for episode 2 of Breaking Glass, the Bowie catalogue. Really hope you enjoyed this one. I think you could kind of tell towards the end we were enjoying ourselves a bit. I want to say thank you to Jock Norton from Puppy for sorting us out with the stings and the intro outro music you hear throughout. Music's starting to actually get in my head a bit now, so that's probably a good sign.